Well, Casey, why are you acting so surprised? We've always known that the WNBA doesn't know how to treat their stars properly. I'm not talking about the WNBA and the egregious way they treat the Great White Hope. Not only does this dump not know how to create stars, the disrespect, the outright defiance, it is coming from the president of the Indiana Felines, which means this is coming from Caitlin Clark's own team.
For weeks now, the comments section and those Reddit threads have been screaming that the WNBA was basically painting a bullseye on their biggest star. Everyone saw the pattern of hits and wondered exactly when the league would finally step in to stop the bleeding. Well, we finally got an answer, though it wasn't the kind of response anyone was actually looking for. No whistles, no formal press releases from the commissioner, just one brutal, cold number, 48%. That is the massive cliff. All-star ticket prices fell off the second Caitlin Clark's injury went public. This isn't just about a physical hit from Jacy Sheldon anymore. It's a multi-million-dollar disaster that finally forced the league to look in the mirror and decide if they actually care about their top asset. We're tracing the whole mess today, from that specific collision to the financial meltdown currently happening behind closed doors. If you want the truth that the league is desperate to bury, go ahead and hit that like button to keep us going. Alright, let's cut through the noise and look at the facts. To grasp why one injury caused a total market meltdown, we need to go back to July 15, 2025. The Indiana Fever were squared up against the Connecticut Sun, a matchup that's been messy from the jump, and honestly, I'm hesitant to share the footage because seeing a legend like her basically weeping on the court isn't something to circulate lightly. She starts heading toward the end of the floor. You can see the agony in her movement. Something is clearly broken here. She reaches the stanchion, you know, that heavy post holding up the backboard, and just leans her head against it. She's fighting it, but the tears win as she stumbles back to the bench. Once she sits down, the dam just breaks. I've never seen Caitlin Clark lose it on the court like that, except maybe after that national championship heartbreak. She's usually a rock, but all that bottled-up frustration finally just exploded. There was less than a minute left in a game the Fever were actually leading when Clark fired off a sharp backdoor pass. As she spun around to get back on defense, she ran right into Connecticut's Jacy Sheldon. To someone just glancing at the screen, it looked routine, but for Clark, it was a total disaster. She winced instantly, clutching her right groin, an area that's been a nightmare for her throughout this 2025 season. What happened after that revealed the real damage. This wasn't just a slight limp or a quick grimace. Something was different. She tried to stay out there, tried to be the warrior we know, but the pain was written all over her face. This was officially the breaking point. One more play later, she slowed to a crawl, grabbed her side again, and just walked off toward the baseline. Right there, with the camera still zooming in, she finally lost her cool. It wasn't about a missed play. It was the total emotional exhaustion of a player who's been forced to carry an entire league's future on her back. Their strategy to shut her down, and I honestly blame Stephanie White for this as much as anyone, is that they were absolutely manhandling her. They were playing incredibly rough with Caitlin Clark right from the start of that matchup. Hands all over her. They were grabbing her jerseys and limbs, and frankly, they didn't care about the consequences. That was the plan. Go out there and physically dismantle Caitlin Clark. They had zero interest in playing a clean game. They just wanted to leave a mark. This wasn't professional defense. This was a literal mugging on the hardwood, as aggressive as they could get away with. Look, for an elite athlete like Clark, this is so much bigger than just a pulled muscle or physical soreness. We're talking about a player who almost never lets people see her bleed. She's been hit, shoved, and checked all year long without a word, despite already dealing with a quad injury and another groin issue earlier this year. This wasn't just about one collision. It was months of taking hits, dealing with garbage officiating, and the crushing weight of being the WNBA's golden child. It was the moment she realized her body gave out right before her big all-star moment. Seeing a star of her caliber break like that, it was gut-wrenching. How often do you actually see a world-class athlete just get completely swallowed by the moment on the floor? Drop a comment if you think this was more about her mental state than the physical injury. That moment of despair was a loud wake-up call. Barely 24 hours later, that hint became a full-blown declaration that rocked the league's foundation and its wallet. By morning, the worst nightmares of fans and front office suits alike were finally realized. This didn't drop in some dry press release. It hit live on national TV. we have to start with some grim news from the WNBA. Caitlin Clark just went public. She is officially sitting out the three-point shootout and the entire WNBA showcase. This Indiana All-Star weekend is happening without her after she tweaked that groin injury late in Tuesday's win. Boom. Official. Just like that. The league's crown jewel, the one who pulled in a massive 1.3 million fan votes, was officially a no-show for the big game. We aren't just talking about a missing starter here. She was the whole show. Captain, headline shooter, the literal face of Indiana's big weekend. Now, she's a spectator. That's a massive hole to fill. If you bought a seat, you bought it to see her, period. Here is the pivot point. Look, the WNBA knows PR damage control. Bad calls? They can spin those into passionate play all day long. They pump out statements on conduct and scramble to keep the story under their thumb. But this? This was a monster beyond any spin doctor's reach. A disaster that demanded attention. We aren't talking about mean tweets anymore. This time, the fallout was measured in cold, hard cash. Once that news hit the wire, the money side of things started to crumble. The proof didn't come in a memo either. It played out on the open market where everyone could watch. The data was brutal and impossible to argue with. Check out this figure. These stats transformed a simple injury report into a total fiscal meltdown for the entire league. Barely 24 hours after the Clark is out news, the average ticket price on resale sites cratered by a staggering 48%. Let's be real about this. Seeing prices drop by half overnight is a disaster in any economy. This wasn't just some minor fluctuation. This was a total loss of faith, shouted loud and clear by the invisible hand of the market. Every fan closing their wallet, every scalper panicking and cutting prices, every person realizing the show just wasn't worth it without the star. It was a mass exodus. They were screaming the same thing at the league's top brass. No, Caitlin Clark, your product is worth exactly 50 cents on the dollar. Think about the fallout here. That 48% isn't just some abstract stat on a stock ticker. It means millions in potential revenue just vanished from Indianapolis. We're looking at $1 million disaster right here. Money is the only language they speak fluently. Remember, this league launched the Commissioner's Cup with a $500,000 pot just to get people caring. They get cash. They get consequences. A 48% collapse is a siren they can't tune out. It's the first real evidence of exactly what the experts have feared for months. If she stays banged up, the WNBA is about to lose its biggest magnet and its entire money-making machine. The monetary bleeding is obvious. What the market is saying cannot be ignored by anyone. But disasters don't just happen. We need to be asking, how on earth did the front office let things get this bad? We have to trace the path back. This fiscal wreck wasn't born from a single bad break on the court. It was the totally expected result of a long history of looking the other way, despite constant warnings from everyone. For months, fans and pundits have shouted that Clark was facing a level of physical violence that went way beyond tough defense. She gets tossed to the hardwood while her own teammates just stand around like statues, doing absolutely nothing to help. While Sophie Cunningham actually steps up, other players just sit behind a mic and play it safe during their pressers. They just repeat the same tired script, that incoherent word salad we keep hearing from people like Stephanie White. Sophie Cunningham isn't buying it. Normal rookie treatment, my foot. This was calculated. It was on purpose. The goal was to literally maul her. And no, that isn't my word. That is the phrasing experts chose. This wasn't just one team's game plan. It was a tactic the league essentially approved by doing nothing. You want the real smoking gun? For the undeniable proof that they saw the trouble coming and did nothing, just look back to June 17th, a month before the injury. During that matchup, Jacy Sheldon literally poked Clark right in the eye. Then, Marina Mabrey from Connecticut slammed Clark to the floor, triggering a massive, heated confrontation. Here's the most damning evidence of all. The WNBA put out a formal statement admitting their own officials lost control of that game and overlooked several critical, dangerous fouls. Just think about that for a second. The league admitted that its own staff couldn't keep order or keep the players safe. They actually recognized the cracks in the system a full 30 days before that exact brand of rough play ended up costing them millions. This wasn't some accident or a lack of info, it was a cold, hard decision. By choosing that path, they basically built a ticking time bomb where someone getting hurt wasn't just a possibility, it was a guarantee. Honestly, it was only a matter of time before the people in Caitlin Clark's inner circle couldn't stay quiet any longer. When the league finally owned up to losing their grip on the game, it wasn't just corporate fluff, it was a told you so for everyone watching the train wreck. But the hits kept coming, and eventually, the frustration among Caitlyn's closest supporters just hit a boiling point. Since the league sat on its hands and her own teammates looked almost scared to back her up, the job of standing up for her fell on everyone else. I mean, things just happen. I feel like you kind of get used to the noise and the hype, even if you don't really want to, you just accept it's the new normal. You're going to have people dragging you in the comments. You'll have others treat you like a god, no matter what you do. At this level, with all eyes on you, whether it's me or any other pro at the absolute peak, that's just the price of admission, period. So, that lack of protection on the hardwood finally forced people to start swinging from the sidelines. Her coach, Stephanie White, was the one leading the charge, and after that mess of a game on June 17th, she let him have it. She went straight for the officials' throats, which is something you almost never see a head coach do so publicly. She basically said that the officiating sucks league-wide, and while players are getting better, the refs are stuck in the mud. She didn't stop there. She told the press she tried to warn them in the first quarter, saying, "We saw this coming from a mile away. Anyone could see it was written all over the game. They need to step up and take control, period." But the anger didn't just stay in the locker room that night. It hit home. After that July 15th injury that finally put her on the bench, her brother Colin Clark fired off a post that voiced exactly what we were all thinking. The post, which got wiped pretty fast, simply read, "Don't get it twisted, the refs caused this." Now, if you're like me and you analyze these stories, that delete button is way more interesting than the actual words. It shows that in a moment of pure, boiling rage, the family finally said the quiet part out loud. The fact it vanished so fast feels like someone, an agent, the team, or even the league stepped in to kill a story they couldn't spin. Why do you think Colin deleted it? Was he just cooling off? Or did the league's PR machine force his hand? Drop your best theory in the comments, I really want to hear what you think. When a coach is at war with the whistleblowers and a family is getting muzzled, the mask starts to slip. It all points to a really ugly truth about what the league actually cares about. A truth that the 48% price crash would finally drag into the light. Let's piece this together and find the real motive behind all of this, just like I promised. For months, while Caitlyn Clark was getting beat up on the court, the league didn't say a single word. They just let this welcome to the big league's narrative grow, pretending she just needed to toughen up. This is where things get real. Now, we're talking rumors here, but it's a theory that insiders and experts have been buzzing about for a long time. The word is, the WNBA's whole plan was to intentionally hide Clark's star power to try and make the whole league look bigger. They thought if they showed the world that the league was gritty, physical, and not just about one girl, every team would benefit in the end. So, letting her get battered without calling fouls? That wasn't a mistake, it was the plan. It was their way of proving the whole WNBA was tough as nails. But that whole strategy just went up in smoke. That 48% price drop was the exact moment everyone realized how badly they'd screwed up. It proved one thing that no one can argue with. The bank account of this entire league is tied directly to whether or not Caitlyn Clark is healthy enough to play. Trying to sell the league by letting its star get clobbered didn't make them look tough. It just made them look like they didn't care. And it led to their biggest moneymaker being sidelined, causing a total financial meltdown and leaving us all questioning the leadership. Seriously, I saw this one photo today and just thought, what are we even doing here? Kathy Engelbert. Remember her? She just came out with a statement, 2 weeks ago? Officiating is top-notch here, apparently. Seriously? What kind of league actually lets this fly? The mask finally slipped, showing their hand. Player safety? Not it. The game's soul? Not even close. It came down to cold, hard cash. Bad press didn't faze them. Angry fans and scathing headlines were just background noise. But a 48% market freefall? That hurt. It wasn't about being evil, it was just about the money. This calculated move exposed where their loyalty truly lies. They don't act for a player in danger, they act for a dying profit margin. This disaster has backed the league into a corner. Now, everyone is wondering, what's the next move? Welcome to the WNBA's brutal new reality. They just got a multi-million-dollar wake-up call from the audience they desperately need. That hit, the injury, and the 48% dive weren't just a string of bad luck. They happened because the league turned a blind eye to blatant violence until it finally started bleeding their bank accounts dry. They tried to act like the brand outweighed any single athlete, but the market humbled them in the most savage way. It's time to prove they care about human beings, not just income streams. Because honestly, the whole world just saw their true colors. So, how are you seeing this whole situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was this 48% crash a disaster, or the wake-up call the league actually needed? We'll be keeping a very close eye on how they handle this massive financial heat as it unfolds. If you want to get the actual story behind the headlines and stay ahead of the curve, definitely subscribe and turn on notifications. Lastly, if there's another analyst you know who needs to grasp what's really on the line here, send this their way.